by Hudson.
My name's Bradley Guys.
And my name's Adam Pringer.
And welcome to the Hot Swap. Hello and welcome to episode 14. I'm here with Adam. He's going to get into what he got into this week first. What have you been playing, man?
So on Friday, I picked up Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. So I was playing that over the weekend. And the game is really fantastic. I played a bunch of it. And I got through the first chapter, and I'm playing through the second chapter now. And just basic of the way the game works is there seems to be chapters where there's a story pushing you through a dungeon in a specific area that usually is going to revolve around one character. And then after you finish that chapter, you go into what they call an intermission, which is one of several things that the game does that plays on the performances and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Basically, instead of having a party or a team, it's called a cast. And then you have a main cast, which is the characters you're using at that time. And then like a subcast of characters that you're either not using in your party or are not party members, but are still part of like your group. And so it's always playing on this theme of performance art and stuff like that. And so during the intermissions, you can choose to do side stories and do other things along that won't drive the narrative forward. And you can kind of stay in that mode as long as you want until you do a specific thing to push to the next chapter.
And can you grind for levels?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
The intermission is actually a really great time to grind because that gives you the opportunity to collect something they call performa from all of the enemies that you fight. And you use that performa to create new weapons. And from there, the weapons have their own levels. And so every time it levels up, basically, you unlock a skill
Mirageを倒せるのはミラージュの力だけ
and keep on to the character that's using it. And so that's where you learn new skills. And there's all sorts of skills. They have this thing called sessions where if one person does an attack that goes against the weakness of an enemy, and then there are certain skills you can get where if you do a wind attack, for instance, that other character in your party will know that when you do a wind attack that it needs to respond to that wind attack with subsequent sword attack. And so you can build off these skills that like work with each other to help you get through the battle. So kind of the way the weapons and armor work is you're playing as this character in the world, and you have a Fire Emblem character that operates as an entity that becomes your weapon and kind of your armor. And so you can change the form of that enemy, or you can change the form of your partner into different weapons. So it's basically you're just changing the form of it.
いつもの仕事も同じだわ。いつも通りに全力を尽くすだけよ。
And so yes, the weapons have like affinities towards certain element types and things like that. So by equipping a different weapon, you may then change what you're weak or strong against in battle.
Oh, that's interesting.
And sometimes it seems that you can, if you like equip a weapon that has resistance against poison attacks, one of the levels that you'll get from it, like one of the skills you get when it levels up, is to retain that resistance to poison.
Oh, okay.
And so when you're playing in the intermission period, you can just kind of grind that to your heart's content. You can also kind of do that during the chapters as well, because you can easily leave the dungeon area, go back to your base, and like heal yourself, and then also get new skills and new weapons. One of the weird things about healing yourself is that there's no like in or like resting thing to do. You just go to a vending machine and drink some kind of soda or beverage out of the vending machine, and it will heal your party completely.
Oh, wow.
So I was confused by that at first, but now that I know that's how that works, because I just assumed it would be like buying drinks to do buffs and stuff like that, but it's specifically to heal your whole party.
Okay.
And depending on what you drink you get, you can affect your team party members, like their luck. That's the only thing I've seen so far. And I mean, what else can I say about it? So the gameplay is really good. I really like the way the sessions mode like has you building off of the characters, and kind of it seems like it has a lot of room for growth. Where like right now I'm only being able to do like a combo number of 2 at a time right now.
Okay.
But I know that there's stuff in the game for getting higher number of combos, and I'm assuming that once I get the ability to do attacks on multiple enemies at once, that those combos will carry over to each enemy that I hit. So that's where I think it'll start to really grow from there. It definitely seems like a system that has a lot of room for growth in that regard. And then on top of that, it's a really nice looking game. The main like pause menu has like the text in the middle of the screen in a circle, and then around it, laying in grass, are all your team members.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're kind of like laying up looking at you. And that's a really nice looking menu. And it's just a really nice looking game. The only thing that I think is kind of bad about visually the game is that there's no subtitles in the battles except for like important story stuff. So like all the banter that happens when you get into battle is not translated, so you can't really know what they're saying.
That's kind of a bummer.
And while it's probably not anything important to the story or to really like knowing what to do, I always enjoy a good like chatter between party members. But yeah, I played a ton of it. I have a handful of games that I want to play more of right now, but so it's a tough thing and trying to find time for that as well. Because I know that you and I tried to play Splatoon a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we could. I was going to talk about Splatoon a little bit. That's mostly what I played this week. I played a ton of it, and I'm happy I got it back again. I didn't realize how much I had missed it until I started playing it. You and I just did a private match between the two of us just to check out a few levels real quick before I had to go to work. And we played a couple different game modes, but the weird one that I didn't even know existed was the one you said earlier was called Rainmaker.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you're battling over one of those bazookas, you know, like the secret power that you get where you shoot out the little tornadoes of ink. And that seemed like could be pretty interesting. We should try a real match with a bunch of people maybe and see how crazy it gets, where you never know who's going to have that gun, and it's basically like having a superpower all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of like a play on Capture the Flag almost.
Yeah, and we also tried out a couple of the new levels. That was mostly what I wanted to do, was just cycle through the new levels, and I think we got through 3 of them. And it actually, the one that we played the museum, which has the crazy bridges and all the water, and I actually ended up playing regular battles, and most of my battles were in the museum, and just us practicing and you beating me every time helped me when I played in the regular battle. I finally knew how to get around in there, and I played a lot better than the first time I tried it. So
that's good.
I tried out a few of the new weapons. I ended up going back to some old weapons, and then I went back to the roller like I always do. So
that was one of the funny things about us playing together, is we were both playing with the roller.
Yeah, 1-on-1, both rollers. It was a very slow battle. We both ended up just kind of painting everything to see who could paint the most.
Yeah, and oftentimes when we came in contact with each other, we just killed each other.
Yeah, exactly. We would just roll into each other and die. So, but I guess the only game I could really get a little in depth on is I can add on to what you said about Mighty Number 9 last week, because I did finally pick it up. And I've got a couple videos up on the channel. And I guess I listened to the show and I just thought the only thing you didn't really touch on was we talked about the absorption combos. But all we talked about was that you get a higher score by keeping your combo going. But you also get boosts to your abilities. And it's all based on what color of the enemy that you absorb. There's green, blue, yellow, and red. Red's power, yellow's shield, green's movement speed, and blue actually gives you a little thing that heals you. If you press select, you can heal yourself.
Oh.
So it's cool, and the more you absorb, the stronger you can get. Like, I was actually building up. I had 2 health recoveries built up. I had a 1 and then one that had a little 2 next to it, and that healed even more, and I was able to use them one at a time. So let's say you see you kill like 3 enemies, or you get them down to the brink of death, and they're all blue. If you absorb all 3 of them, you'll get a more powerful heal that you can use later. Or if you get 3 reds, or you'll get a more powerful shot that'll last longer and is stronger. So that's where the real art of the absorption mechanic comes into the game. You could just go through the game and shoot everything in your path, and whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you start absorbing, you get a lot stronger, you get a lot faster. You can run through the level even quicker and continue to absorb. So, I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. It's like Mega Man, but with attributes. It's almost got I don't want to say RPG, but it does. It has a little. It's like in microbursts RPG-ness, basically. You get little stat boosts that last a little while, unless you're really good. And you can just keep that combo rolling the whole time. And I'm not that good. I died a billion times. I restarted my second video probably 3 times until I finally got the level down. I made a video and I couldn't beat the level, and I just trashed it. So, I mean, this game definitely has some good challenge to it. And I guess the other complaint about it was how it looks. That it's kind of cartoony. I think it looks really cool. I don't know. I'm not bothered by 3D platformers. Some people don't like that look where it's all computer 3D and then they put it on a 2D plane. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting. The fire level, Pyro is the name of that. He's Mighty Number 1. It has all kinds of cool background effects. There's things coming at you that one shot will kill you, but it also takes out things in the level. It's basically a big smokestacks, or whatever you want to say, buildings falling down in front of you. And I thought that looked really cool, and it's fast paced, and you have to be careful because you got things falling on you. There's meteors being shot from out of the background. It actually reminds me a lot of the newer Kirby games, the way stuff's coming out of the background like crazy.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I've only played the beginning training and a couple levels. I'm definitely hooked. Whenever I get some free time to play more games, it's either going to be Mighty 9 or Splatoon probably for a while. And I'm leaning more towards Mighty 9. Oh, and I'm still playing Kick and Fennec too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything else to add about that game. I did put up a new video of that as well. So if anybody wants to see some more crazy Kick and Fennec gameplay, it's up on the channel. And but that's it, man. That's all I have to talk about this week.
Okay.
So everybody
Sounds
go out
good.
and get Mighty Number 9. Don't listen to all the complainers. It's pretty fun. Let's go ahead and start off with my song this week. I chose Midnight Rooftop from Bloody Roar, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. So I came up with the idea after last week's show to do a Hudson Soft episode at some point, and we decided to do it this week.
Yep. And mentioning coming up with ideas, I wanted to do a little editor's note from last week. Adam came up with the spin-off ideas, too. I took ownership of that. I apologize.
And I don't really care either way, so that's fine. So I wanted to start off by going through the history of Hudson as a company. And then we could talk about some of the games that we like from them on a separate note. And where to start is the creation of the company in the first place. So Hudson Soft was started on May 18th in 1973, and it was started as a radio telecommunications company. The two people that founded it were really into trains. So they named the company after one of their favorite trains, which happened to be named after an explorer who is notably named after, has named the river in New York, the Hudson River, Henry Hudson. So they're named after a train named after an explorer. And that's kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, it is.
And they kind of sprinkled some of that train love throughout the time that they were at the company as well. In 1975 was when they first started working with personal computer stuff. And then in 1978 is when they started to work on video game related materials.
I saw, maybe it was, you never can believe everything you read on Wikipedia, but I also saw they were in the photography too. Maybe they were making equipment or something.
Yeah, I saw something that listed that they were in like working with art and photography. So I'm not entirely sure what that entails. I didn't find anything specifically talking about that. So a lot of this like older Japanese video game information is kind of hard to find when you don't speak Japanese,
That's
unfortunately. So I do know that Hudson, when they started into the video game era, eventually they became the first third-party developer for the Famicom. And so that's when their relationship with Nintendo first started. And that's seen throughout the entire existence of the company. One of the things that helped bring Hudson into popularity beyond just having games is that they used to do this thing called summer caravans, where they traveled around Japan with a bunch of video game systems and did gaming competitions. And they used their own games to do so. And that went on, for the most part, between 1985 and 1992. And I watched some videos of these competitions, and you can see a lot of older guys in polos and khakis playing games, as well as a bunch of kids with baseball caps playing games. I thought that I just watching these old videos of kids playing with these yellow Hudson shooting stick controllers, that I really would like one of those controllers.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't have a Famicom for it to work on, so there's not really much of a reason for me to get one.
The only time I'd ever seen one, because I didn't watch any of those videos, but I did notice, I read something about the competitions. But anyway, the only time I ever saw one of those controllers was when Master Higgins, or I wrote his actual name, Master Takahashi, was on Game Center CX. He actually brought one out to the main guy on that show, whose name's escaping me at the moment.
Reno.
Yeah, a Reno. So that's the only time I've ever actually really seen one, besides maybe some pictures online when I've tried to buy one, but they're kind of expensive. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that the controller port for the NES is different than the Famicom, because that would make me want to get one, but without being able to use it, I don't really see a purpose in having something that looks cool but would be just a novelty.
Yep.
And so those competitions, they did a lot of their shooters for those competitions. You can actually see in some of the games that they released that they'd even have specific modes that were timed modes for those games. They were kind of built around the idea of this competition. So it was a big deal for them, these caravans that they used to do. And so from there, through Hudson's popularity, In 1987, that's when they teamed up with the company NEC, which is basically just a computer company in Japan. And that's when they created what they called, they codenamed it C62 system, which is named after a train also. And that was what became known as the PC Engine, or in the West, the TurboGrafx 16.
Yep.
I had no idea that this thing ever existed as a kid. I did not know this existed until the Wii and the Virtual Console.
I feel like I played Bonk when I was a kid at somebody's house, but that was my one and only. I couldn't even. I've seen stuff like on Angry Video Game Nerd since, so I've known about it probably for the last decade. But I haven't seen one in person in a really long time, if I ever did, because I don't know. I could be making that all up. But for some reason, I really feel like maybe I played in a store or something. But when I picked up Bonk on Virtual Console, speaking of Wii, it all came back to me. So I've definitely played it at least once as a kid.
Okay. I mean, the other thing is Hudson very regularly made games for other video game systems other than their own.
And
so
they ported lots of stuff.
Yes, they also ported other people's games quite often. So even if there was a game that may have been on that system, you may have actually played it on a completely different system other than the TurboGrafx, which is a possibility.
Yep.
Obviously the PC Engine did fairly well in Japan, from what I can tell, but in the West it didn't so much. I mean, I didn't even know it existed as a kid, so I mean, it couldn't have done that well.
It's a really cool system, PC Engine. Have you ever?
It's definitely a cool looking thing.
It uses the thing that jumps out for me about it is it uses game cards. They look like little microchips. They're really thin and flat and kind of long, and they're even green. There's not much difference in one from the other. I'm trying to remember. It might be even hard to tell which game is which, if I remember correctly, because I don't think there's really any labels or anything on them. Once you and they're, I don't know, it's just I can't think of any other. I guess they're kind of like DS cards now, or SD cards, but without the plastic on them. They're very unique.
I mean, it's definitely a unique system, and they kind of approached building a system and making games for it a little bit differently than I think most other companies have kind of approached that. I do think that, was it Atari that had like little, like almost microchip type of game cartridges?
Atari has they look like NES cards.
I don't know. I thought there was one that was like really a thin cartridge that Atari made, but I could be wrong on that.
Maybe the Jaguar later on, which I believe had something to do with the TurboGrafx. I feel like maybe they worked together on the Jaguar. I can't remember. I do feel like there's a connection there.
Okay.
So I'm probably wrong about that, though, guys. So don't take me at my word.
So after that, after making lots of games, there's a lot of games that never saw light of day in the U.S. that they released that weren't very good and weren't very well received. They're notably they're known for having put out like over 20 games in 1 month at some point in time.
Oh wow,
they're kind of crazy about that stuff. But in 1997, the main bank that they used went bankrupt.
I actually wrote down the name of the bank. It's,
okay.
I'm going to try and pronounce this, everybody. It's Hokkaido Takashoko Bank, and it collapsed, is what I read.
Yeah, and so that led them the next several years after that to look for alternate sources for fiscal revenues for the company, which inevitably led to them going public on the Japanese stock market.
Yep.
That happened in 2000. And within the year, and then they went public in December, and then the next year in August, Konami bought a crap ton of shares for the company.
Yeah, like almost half, I'm pretty sure.
At that point, they weren't the majority shareholder, but they were the largest shareholder for the company. And within that agreement, Hudson ended up with part of Konami's company, and Hudson renamed it the Hudson Studio.
Yep.
And that began the very odd, in my opinion, relationship between Hudson and Konami. It was after that point where they started to share games and stuff like that. Like I'm pretty sure Hudson made R-type games for the TurboGrafx or the PC Engine.
That's what I read. Yeah, they made multiple R-type games.
Yes. And so like they were even at the very beginning of that sharing games and sharing resources and stuff. So I it's a very weird relationship anyway. By 2005, Konami then had become the majority shareholder of Hudson.
Yep.
And more or less, Hudson still kind of operated on its own at that point. Although in 2006, only a year later, that is when Bomberman Act Zero was released, which is like an atrocious Bomberman game made by Konami.
Yeah, I've never played it.
I wouldn't recommend it. Not only is it really ugly, it's also not a very good Bomberman game.
Okay.
So in this time period, pretty much all of the 2000s, Hudson saw a large amount of their employees leaving the company.
Yep.
I think they kind of saw what was happening with the company and saw Konami taking it over and grasping on it more and more. In this time period, one of the co-founders left. The creator of Bomberman left the company. And even Master Higgins himself, Takahashi, had left the company.
Yep.
And I think he left in like 2010, maybe. That sounds about right. Now, back up a little bit here. Nintendo in 2000 had formed a company with a company called Dentsu.
Yeah,
which
is
is
an advertising company.
Yeah, like I don't know why you'd start an advertising or a game studio with an advertising company, but whatever.
Yeah, it was weird.
Nintendo owned most of the shares of the company at that time anyway, but they teamed up with this company to make the studio, and they made a couple games together. But in 2010, Nintendo, for some weird reason, decided that they were going to completely reorganize the company. They bought all of the shares except for like the small people that owned, little bits of shares. They owned like 98% of the company or something like that. And
they owned all the studios and stuff too. It was called a ND Cube if we didn't mention it.
I don't think I did, but yes, ND Cube.
Yep, Nintendo and what was the name of the
Dentsu.
Yeah, so ND Cube, which, I guess it's kind of clever. I like that they have something named Cube, though, to keep the GameCube alive.
Yeah, because it was around the time of the GameCube when that studio was started. So, interestingly enough, when they reorganized this company, they put one of the former presidents of Hudson in charge of the company. And it was full of all these people from Hudson that had left throughout the past decade.
A lot of people that had worked on the Mario Party series, ironically enough.
So this studio is now pretty much responsible for all of Nintendo's party games.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
So the interesting thing that I did not know about this is that people are since Hudson stopped making Mario Party games, people seem to complain like, oh, they were better when Hudson made them. Why doesn't Hudson make a Mario Party game? But, I mean, pretty much they are still. And I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and you thought basically, it looked like the last time Hudson was involved was the Wii Mario Party.
They made 8, yes.
Yeah, but since then, most of them, I mean, there's even people they just mention and say that they were part of the team. They don't even list their names. So who knows how many, former Mario Party Hudson people are now working at ND Cube. And still, it's pretty much the same team from what I could tell, if I had to guess.
More or less, yes. And while I personally don't have a problem with the newer variations of Mario Party, mostly because I don't find it interesting to play the same game for the last 20 years exactly. Like I like that they're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that the Mario Party games are still good, and so I don't quite know what people's problem is other than they can't understand, wanting to try something different.
Yeah, I've never been a huge party game guy, but I can recognize that the quality is the same throughout the series, and I have no problem with them trying to shake it up. I mean, I feel like most people wouldn't want to play. I mean, most of the earlier games are just mini game fests. So how many mini games can you make? How many times can you do it over and over? You gotta shake it up a little.
Now, Mario Party 8 was a pretty good game. They had this level where you were basically buying hotels, I believe. So it was very similar to Monopoly.
Monopoly, yeah.
And I think people got really hung up on this level and wanted like more of that, which I don't blame them because it was a really good level. It was probably one of the best Mario Party levels that I ever played. But you know, it's whatever. I still think they're the former Hudson employees are still making good games. I just wanted to bring that up, and I also thought it was interesting because I didn't know it before. So after that studio was created by Nintendo, which explains why they never bought Hudson, I guess. In January 2011 is when Konami became fully owned by, or when Konami fully owned Hudson.
Right.
And by that April is when they had closed the U.S. operations for Hudson. And then in March of 2012 is finally when Hudson ceased to exist. They absorbed the Hudson Music Entertainment part of the company into Konami's music section. And then any other little bits just kind of got absorbed into parts of Konami.
Right.
Now, that wouldn't be that big of a deal, except for Konami doesn't really seem interested in doing anything other than making slot machines and pachinko machines.
And mobile games, yeah.
To some extent, yeah.
Yeah.
So my main concern about all of this and what makes me kind of mad about it is just my questioning of why Konami was so interested in this company when they seemingly have no interest or very little interest in using it at all.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to end up doing with them. Maybe all the studios they have left, maybe they'll be the ones doing the mobile games, and Konami will, like you said, just make pachinko machines. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just for all the property and just the assets. Maybe they're just going to, sell it off again.
Now, I did see, when I was doing research for this episode, I did see a couple articles that came out in like August of 2015 that had stated that Konami was starting to license out some of its own franchises to other companies. Notably, Nintendo had like franchised out this series that's only been in Japan to make a game for this series. And people were writing articles at this time saying, well, if they're going to license out this game company, then the possibility of them licensing out things like Bomberman or Bonk or any of the other titles that Hudson makes, it's a possibility. And I mean, that's yet to be seen, but at the same time, since 2015, Nintendo's been making a lot of games that we haven't seen anything about yet. So in theory, there could still be quite a bit that maybe was worked out that we don't see yet. Who knows? That pretty much covers all of the history that I wanted to cover for the company.
Okay.
Do you want to start with any games that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead and transition into just talking about some of the games that we've enjoyed that Hudson's made. You may be able to tell from the first song I picked, Bloody Roar. That's probably my favorite Hudson-made game. It's, from what I can tell, it's the only fighting game they ever made. It started out, I don't even know if it was in arcades, but I know it was on the PlayStation. That's where I began playing it. And it's kind of a Tekken-style fighter. You have 3D movement. But what's interesting about this game is 3D movement's always on... It's usually a button that does it. It's not directional, so you can't press up and down to 3D move around. You got to press like L and R. And now that I think about it, I think the first Bloody Roar didn't even have the option. It wasn't until later when controllers started having shoulder buttons, PS2, GameCube, stuff like that, when you finally had full 3D range. And the reason that you had to be able to rotate with the shoulder buttons is because it had some mechanics in it that I've never played a fighting game that also has it. Whereas you could jump with up, which is, classic Street Fighter 2D fighting style, but there was crazy duck things involved. You could duck once, but you could also double tap down and you would duck super low. Basically, you would actually duck in between your knees, and you had multiple attacks that you could only do from that stance. and you could also use it to dodge projectiles and things of that nature. So I don't know what it was between being able to rotate around a guy but still fight Street Fighter style with the blocking by holding back and being able to jump, and with this cool mechanic. The basics of the game, it's always been one of my favorite fighting games. Now, throw on top of that the fact that you can, at any time, as long as your meter's at a certain point, which you build up by throwing out combos or blocking or even taking damage, you could transform into an animal form where you get a whole nother set of moves that are attached to their own button. Once you transform, the transformation button becomes another attack button. So it opens the game up completely. It adds, like I said, a whole nother section of special attacks. You get EX attacks. You can combo off your regular human attacks into the animal attacks. I mean, it really opens the game up. So I've always really liked Bloody Roar, and I actually had forgotten that Hudson even made it, to be honest. So that's definitely my top Hudson game.
Okay. It definitely sounds cool.
Yeah, if you ever
I can't believe I've never played it. I think I may remember seeing it in Nintendo Power or something, but I definitely have never played this game.
I'm going to have to put some videos up on the channel so you can check it out. But anyway.
I'll go over my first experience with a Hudson game beyond the game that I talked about last week, which was Bomberman Pocket. The next game I bought from them was Bomberman 64, which I also didn't realize was very different from regular Bomberman games in that it has a whole single-player story mode with like real levels where you're like finding items and doing like platforming and stuff. It was a really cool game, and I had a lot of fun playing with it. I think you could do multiplayer with, I guess it was just 4-player multiplayer on that, and you could do bots on it, which is pretty standard for Bomberman.
Yeah.
One of the weird things is that there was you could unlock a bunch of extra stuff in the multiplayer if on the main screen you could tap the start button fast enough. You could.
I just watched a video. Somebody was playing a game where you could only continue that way. You had to hit the button as fast as you could, and then you could continue.
Yeah. Now, thinking about it just now, I'm wondering if that was some kind of nod to the whole 16-shot thing with Master Higgins and the fast button tapping thing. Because you definitely had to, you could either use a turbo controller and just hold down the start button to activate this code, or you could, I basically had to like vibrate my finger in order to like get fast enough presses to unlock this mode. Or it's not a mode, it's just extra levels and stuff. And so I just remember my brother and I had perfected this weird, like, hold the controller weird and like vibrate your finger in order to tap fast enough. Because you couldn't like just like press the button. You had to like hover over it and tap it like a hummingbird or something.
Yeah, you need the I wrote it down. You need the 16-shot shooting watch to practice up.
Yes. And speaking of those, they have like the most recent one they made, which was like around the DS time period, is like a little yellow one. And I would really like one. I was looking at prices and they're like over $100.
Yeah, they are. I don't know if you remember at PAX, we were playing the DSiWare 16-shot. Remember I had it?
Yeah, I do remember that.
We were trying to. I could never do 16 in a second like Master Takahashi, but I can keep up with him I'm bad at the sprint, but I'm good at the long run. I can keep up with him over time, but he'll kill me on that initial burst. And I was actually reading an article about him, and it's sad to say age is taking over like it does for everybody. He gets slower and slower every couple years. I think he's down to only 12 presses per second now.
Oh, man, that's still faster than most people probably.
Still pretty quick. I think I can still do about 14 if I really give it my all.
Awesome. Did you have any other games you wanted to bring up?
I've got a few I'd like to mention.
Okay, go ahead.
So I want to mention, we'll start off with NES. I'll go through a couple here. I wanted to mention Felix the Cat. I've never played it. I've watched a bunch of videos. Everybody talks about how it's a hidden gem, and I didn't realize that Hudson made it. It's been on my list of games to check out. What I've seen is Felix runs around, and the more you power up, his items are constantly changing. He gets better shots. What he's holding changes. So it looks like a classic platformer, but with a really cool power-up mechanic. So
interesting.
I'll be trying to probably put some videos up of that at some point because it is a really interesting-looking game. And I also really love Adventure Island.
Okay.
I played it a bunch. We used to rent 2 and 3 a lot when I was a kid. I've never beat the first Adventure Island, but I did beat Wonder Boy, which is what Adventure Island is an NES port of Wonder Boy with a skin over to add Master Higgins into it. And the reason I went ahead and decided to beat Wonder Boy instead of Adventure Island is because Wonder Boy starts you off with continues right off the bat, whereas in Adventure Island you have to actually unlock them by finding the Hudson's mascot, the Hudson Bee, at the end of the first level. And I didn't feel like doing all that, so I just went ahead and played Wonder Boy and beat that. Now, the interesting thing about that is even though Adventure Island was a port of Wonder Boy, that's the only one that was ported. Eventually, Adventure Island becomes its own thing, and Adventure Island 2 and 3, which I love. I was actually playing Adventure Island last night, getting ready for this. And then eventually, Adventure Island The Beginning, which came out on WiiWare, I think I can't remember the year. Maybe you can. Maybe it was like 2009-ish.
I don't know the year, no.
Which is a really cool, newer version of Adventure Island. The only thing I didn't like about it is I probably played 10 hours at least, and I never saw any dinosaurs that you could ride on. So
that's unfortunate.
That kind of bummed me out. So those are probably my favorite out of the NES games. And let's see here. And yeah, we already mentioned the 16 shot, which is one of my favorite DSiWare apps. I think it's really cool. There's all kinds of different modes to help you train how fast you can hit the button. And we talked a little bit about Bonk before, and I just want to mention how fun Bonk is. It's kind of a twist on platformers. It's you're instead of attacking by punching or kicking, you're basically trying to smash everything with your head. And it's got a really cool mechanic to actually flip yourself upside down, so you'll land on stuff with your humongous caveman head. And if you can hit the button fast enough, you can basically fly with that. So while you're flipping in the air, if you hit it really fast, he'll just sit there and somersault through the air endlessly until he gets down to the ground. So I mean, it's an interesting and it's really crazy looking too. I mean, you're like inside a dinosaur's bellies. You're eating meat to power up, and if you eat too much meat, you get like meat crazed and you turn red like a demon. It's a really weird game. So,
did you ever play Zonk, the sci-fi version of it?
No.
Okay.
I don't even know what system that's for, Adam.
I don't know either. I just know it exists.
So yeah, that's when we decided to talk about Hudson, for some reason I felt like there was tons and tons of Hudson games that I love, but really there's 4, maybe 5.
Were you not into any of their shooters like Star Force?
No,
or Super Star Force?
And I thought I would be too. I bought all those on I bought Super Soldier and Star Force and all those on Virtual Console, but they weren't doing anything for me. And on top of that, I was looking at all the Super NES games they released, and I don't think there's any Super Nintendo games of theirs that I like. Which surprised me. I don't remember. I saw Super Adventure Island. I don't remember that game, so maybe I should go play that. That sounds like I might like that.
Right. For me, I really didn't get into caring about Hudson until the Wii. So basically, right before they stopped being a company, because that's when I got introduced to the Virtual Console games for the TurboGrafx.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded games like Utopia and Utopia 2, which are basically Zelda clones. And while they do some really cool stuff that Zelda doesn't do that I like, overall, they're not as good a games because they just don't have the core gameplay that the Zelda games do. Mm-hmm. But they're certainly interesting in their own regard. And then what is the other game? I also downloaded Dungeon Explorer, which is like a 3-player RPG. It's like a more role-playing version of Gauntlet, I guess.
Oh, that's
for the time period. Yeah, and so I played a little bit of multiplayer on that as well. So that was a kind of a cool game. But then also, just not on Virtual Console, they released the 2 Koro Rinpa marble games for the Wii.
Yep.
Which were really interesting, and had you doing all sorts of crazy stuff with the Wii Remote and turning it upside down and stuff to like get this marble through a stage, kind of like Monkey Ball or something like that.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite games on the Wii, which came out like right at the end of the company, and I was kind of afraid it was not going to come out in the U.S., is Lost in Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just short of being an incredible game, but it's a little rough around the edges, but I still really like it. I'm kind of a huge fan of puzzle platformers. It's probably my favorite genre at this point, and so that's why I played through it and really enjoyed it. And it's kind of sad because I feel like if they would have either had more time to make that game better, or if they had the opportunity to make a sequel or something that kind of refined the gameplay and the mechanics that they developed for that game, that it could have really become something special that they had. Because notably, they don't have a ton of different characters and worlds that they've created, at least notably. And the other game that I've only played a little bit of is a game called Rooms, which is like a puzzle game where you're moving around these parts of like a side-scrolling picture of a house to like move a character around and like get keys and open doors and stuff like that. So it's kind of like got a puzzle, like an actual like board puzzle mechanic where you're moving around these pieces to get through an environment, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I never played that. And I did want to play the previous game you mentioned. The cover of it looks really cool. I don't know. I guess I forgot to buy it or I forgot about it, and I did not know that Hudson even made it. It does. When we were doing research, I did check out like a little video, and it does look like a cool game, like you said. I don't know about the rough around the edges part, though. I'd have to dive into it to figure that out.
It's just the combat isn't very refined, and it kind of it hurts the game a little bit.
That's a shame.
But the shadow moving is really good because basically you can move around shadows and you play as a shadow, so you can kind of use that to manipulate the environment to create platforms and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
It's a pretty good game, and that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about with Hudson.
I had one more game to bring up. I apologize for not mentioning it. Okay. I didn't realize that Hudson actually made the first 2 Pokemon trading card games.
Oh, yeah, they did, yeah.
Which is, I don't know, I had got to make everything about Pokemon somehow, so I just thought that was really cool. I definitely owned the first one when I was a kid and played it a bunch. So, yeah, let's go ahead and take a break then, Adam. I think we did Hudson justice. There wasn't like I said in the beginning, I couldn't find a ton of stuff. You seemed to at least be able to find a few things more than I could. And let's see, you chose this week Tokyo Mirage Feel as your song. We'll be right back.
どんな時も感じてほしいのこの想いを折れない翼で私の歌もっともっと届けるからBe my voice と歌って Be my song 歌い続けたい Be my heart 諦めないよ夢見てた世界へ隠していた心のドアをノックしてもう一人の私に会えたどんな時も感じてほしいの
Welcome back, everybody. And before we start the news, I need to add something to the last segment that I neglected to mention, which is that Hudson at some point made a Super Mario Brothers game called Super Mario Brothers Special. And I believe it's for the TurboGrafx, I guess. And it has like a total of 7 colors, and it's absolutely terrible. It has a lot of like weird like graphical errors and like items that will flash even though they're not really supposed to, and it makes things difficult. Like the fire bars, for instance, will like disappear at times.
Oh, they get like anti-aliasing or flickering or whatever.
Yes, and so you could easily run into a fire bar or an accident because you don't see it. It also has like a really weird momentum and a terrible jump. And I watched a video on it. It's almost like charming how terrible it is. The other thing is, instead of having it be side scrolling continuously, it's got like set screens, kind of like Zelda.
Oh, weird.
And so you'll like jump from one screen and then it'll like go to the like a completely different screen, have you continue.
It's like A Boy and His Blob. That's a 2D side scroller that Zelda scrolls. It's the only one that comes to mind for me that's like that. So years later, they did it again with a Mario remake. Is it based off of Super Mario Brothers for the NES, or is it based off the original?
I watched the first 4 levels, the first world, and it seems to be loosely based on the original Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
You can really see some similarities between the levels, but they're not the same. It's basically like they took Mario Maker and took the core level and just kind of added stuff and took away some stuff.
Man, that's so strange.
But it did make me think that it would be really cool if they made this weird like yellow, blue, and red Mario that flickers and stuff, and made him a costume for Super Mario Maker.
Yeah, that would be really cool. And they could have, they could even maybe like if you duck or press up, you could have like the Hudson Bee pop out or something.
Yeah, and that's another thing about the game is it has the Hudson Bee as a findable item that lets you continue.
Just like Adventure Island.
Yes, but apparently it doesn't work. Which is the funniest thing. Yeah, the game is just completely broken and a mess.
I gotta play it now, man.
You probably should, because it's weird and funny. But I felt like I needed to mention that, especially because this is a Nintendo show.
Definitely.
With starting it with the news, so Level 5 showed off some new stuff for a game called Snack World, which they're going to be going into more depth with on July 27th for their Vision event that I mentioned, I guess maybe last episode. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about Snack World because I just like the art style. I like the idea of having little keychain things that you get in the real world and use them sort of like Amiibo to give yourself items in the game.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I mean, it's supposed to be coming out on the 3DS, and I think it was coming out pretty much on everything, but they haven't talked about it in years, so I'm really excited to see what that ends up being. So we'll hear some new stuff about that. And then they also apparently have announced that they're making a new Layton game, although they haven't given a platform or really any details on that, other than it's going to have a different protagonist.
Oh, for the first time?
Well, I think they made an iOS game, I think, that was called like Layton Brothers, and you played as like 2 people that I guess are somehow related to Professor Layton. I think this is going to be sort of similar to that. I think you might be playing as a female, so maybe you're like Professor Layton's daughter or something like that.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I have played through fully 2 of the Professor Layton games, and I have all the other ones available to me. So
I am almost done the first one, but I haven't gone back to it in probably 4 years. So
I mean, do you like the overall like idea of little
I definitely
puzzles
do.
and word games and stuff?
Yeah, I like they really shake it up. There's a lot of different stuff, and even the first game, I imagine the later games get even crazier. And I found it really challenging. I had trouble at times. I had to use the hint system, where most puzzle games I usually don't have to do that. So Layton was really testing my my reflexes and just being able to problem solve which was cool. You know, when you look at the game, it's all cutesy and it's got a really interesting art style, but there's a lot of challenge hidden underneath that cute art style.
Oh, for sure. So I'm sure they're going to talk about other stuff like Inazuma 11 and others, but I just wanted to bring up those two because I know specifically those are going to be talked about. So Monolith Soft Kyoto, which is currently helping Nintendo iron out Zelda Breath of the Wild. They have a new website, new front page for their website, where they're talking about like helping them create dreams for Kyoto, which is where they're based out of. I think it's probably some kind of cryptic message on like them working on something new. I remember they did something kind of similar when they first started working on Xenoblade Chronicles X, where it was just like a small little picture and a statement saying that they were working on a new game.
Yeah, it was wasn't it just a black picture with an X in the middle of it or something?
No, this was just like a simple like landscaped painting, I do believe.
Okay.
Because this was very early on. Like this was almost right after Xenoblade was made, and so they're kind of known for doing these like really small cryptic-y things that it might end up being very telling on what game they're working on once we know what it is. But at this point, there's not really much you can make out of it. But it is cool. I guess they are more or less done helping Nintendo with Zelda. I think the majority of Zelda's finished at this point. There's, testing for bugs and making sure it's all balanced well and stuff like that at this point. So
Yep.
I'm sure they have a good opportunity to work on their own like full-fledged game. And it's probably going to be an NX game or something like that, I'd assume.
Yeah, maybe a 3DS game. You never know.
Now, something when I saw this, I didn't realize that Monolith Soft has two different companies, one or two different parts of it, so subsidiaries, one that's based in Kyoto and one that's based in Tokyo. So I didn't even realize they had like two separate entities.
Yeah, neither did I. This is the first time hearing about it, so.
Yeah. So Sega announced that there's going to be a new Sonic game for 2017. And I don't know why they didn't announce that on his birthday, but whatever. And they kind of are talking about how they're going to be reinventing him again, and they're going to
again.
and they're going to be, I guess, putting an emphasis on like making him like this, like entertainment character. So, maybe he'll be in music videos and in movies and TV shows, and I really don't know what their plan is, other than they're trying to. They're trying to make sure that when he's in games now that they're going to be quality games that people are going to enjoy. And oddly enough, the artwork that they have for his anniversary shows him as original kind of like chubby Sonic, although a little bit more refined. So I'm wondering if they're going to kind of take him back to his roots and have him look more like that now.
I do like Big Belly Sonic, so.
I do too. I like the newer style one as well, but we both grew up with the chubby one, so.
Yeah, definitely. I like I think most of their designs are pretty cool, but you can see why they'd want to go. See, Sonic kind of looks a little bit like Knuckles now. They all kind of have that slender frame, so, give Sonic a little belly, and then, then we could all try to wonder why this hedgehog's so freaking fast. I mean, with dragging that belly behind him.
It's because of the chili dogs.
The power of chili.
And let's see what else we got here. So Miitomo has added some new stuff recently, including star accounts, which are going to be accounts for notable people. And I think this is a really smart move because, in general, people like learning stuff about celebrities or people they perceive as famous or just people they like. So if you're giving the ability for some notable person to have an account where you can go and see what's his face, like what dream he had recently, I think people would eat that up.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what Twitter is. I mean,
yeah.
Most people just follow celebs on, verified blue check guys. So,
it's like, so I mean, this is basically blue check mark Miitomo.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, because of the weird questioning that they do in the game, I mean, I'm sure you'll be able to find some new stuff about your favorite actor or musician that you wouldn't really get from another source. So I guess it's kind of interesting. Nintendo announced that the last Splatfest is going to be happening at the end of July, which is kind of sad. I'm surprised they're not going to keep supporting that for, at least until the NX comes out. Or beyond that, I guess, even. But this one's going to be pretty basic. It's just going to be Callie versus Marie.
That's a good one to go out on if you got to end it.
Yeah. The only thing that I kind of think is unfortunate about all this is during Splatfest is the only time you get to play at courses in their night variation.
Okay.
So the courses actually look different. And so I'm hoping that maybe after this, those courses are going to be maybe incorporated into the normal rotation of levels, where you just randomly will get the night version of that level. Because it doesn't really change the gameplay, but it's nice to have a change of visual stimulation.
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised to hear that they're ending it. I've had no problems finding matches. There's still tons of people online, from what I could tell.
Yeah, so I maybe it's more stress than it's worth to like do these events, but I would think it would be just a matter of plugging in some information and letting it run itself.
Yeah, who knows how they actually do it though,
There was a new Pokemon trailer that was released like yesterday that kind of came off of the back of some leaks for some new Pokemon.
Yep.
Did you happen to see any of that?
I've seen a couple videos that break it down. I haven't seen the actual trailer, but I do know about all the new Pokemon. And I read an article on them as well.
Like the old guy dragon?
Who is really cool. He's the first normal dragon ever in Pokemon. Weird. Yeah, and that's a weird blend. But what I like about that is dragons already have a pretty deep move pool, but not as deep as normal types. So this dragon will probably be able to learn a lot of different attacks, which is interesting. I don't know. They didn't really mention too many new abilities. They showed a psychic water fish, and its ability is dazzle. So I don't know what that actually does, but it apparently dazzles your opponent. So
I did notably notice that they showed some new bug Pokemon off.
Yep.
Which kind of lends credence to your hope that there's a lot of new bug Pokemon.
Yeah, and the one specifically, the electric bug, which looks like a big pincer beetle, looks like he might be powerful. So
he's basically has a rail gun on the front of his face.
Yeah, and he's pretty. It's very Evangelion looking.
I can see that, and it's funny because he evolves from basically just a square, like a rectangular prism.
Yeah, it looks like looks like the turtle van.
Yeah, it does. That's pretty funny. So when I first saw that thing, I'm like, what is this? It's so weird. And then it evolves into something that's really awesome. So
that's the second electric bug. There's Joltik, which I actually run, and he's pretty strong, but he's all offense. This guy looks like he might have a little bulk to him. Maybe you can actually stand in there for a couple hits and give out some good damage. So I'm pretty excited to have another electric bug option in the game. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and was the Pikachu clone? It was steel and electric. Was that it, right?
Yeah, he was electric steel, which there's only, I think Magneton's the only one that's like that right now. So again, I believe I even said in one of our episodes I wish there was more electric variations, or maybe I said that in one of my videos. So I'm glad to see all this love being shown to the electric. There's also an electric fairy that's coming as well. So they're really pushing electric hard in this game, which makes me believe that maybe the game will have a lot of in-game story stuff that pertains to electricity. I don't know. Perhaps
because there was the fire truck thing with Blastoise on the back of it. Mm-hmm. So maybe there's an emphasis on using these Pokemon in real world scenarios, like a power outage and needing to use Pokemon and some kind of management of that.
Yeah, something. So it is weird that there's so many electric, but that could be them just showing us the electric types, and maybe there's a ton more guys we don't know about.
Yeah, when you first said it, I thought maybe it was just in a way to balance all the water Pokemon that you'll be seeing throughout the game. Yeah. Since it's islands and everything. What else do I got here? Oh, something that I find interesting because I make a ton of Mario Maker levels is there's a website that some people have made called Makers of Mario. And you can go to makersofmario.com and check us out. And basically, it enables you to categorize levels with greater detail. So you can actually use multiple tags on this website. So instead of just looking at only puzzle levels, you can kind of more narrowly look at something that is both tagged with puzzle and like Kaizo, or like speed running and music levels or something like that.
Or feather flying is what I would be looking for.
You can even
all the
do
time.
stuff like that as well. Yeah, because they give you more details. For instance, my favorite thing is they have a whole tag for one screen puzzles.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And the other ability that they're doing, and they're working on a bunch of different stuff for this because they're devoted fans to this awesome game, is that they're giving you the ability to create sets of levels, upload them to one source where someone can click on whatever is pertaining to that and add each one of those levels in order to their bookmark.
Oh, very cool.
So it's another resource on top of kind of building on top of the bookmark website, to where you can more easily find very specific stuff that is kind of at this point difficult to find, or at least more difficult to find. So it's really cool that they're doing that. And who knows, maybe Nintendo will see this and tell them to cease and desist, or maybe they'll incorporate some of that into their own website.
Yeah, I'd like to see them, because their site's pretty good, but this is definitely an improvement. And like you said, there's so many levels now. It is hard to find some of the stuff you're looking for at this point.
Yeah. I'm going to be signing up for it and seeing what it's all about, and maybe talking about it in the future.
Cool. I'm excited to hear about it in the future.
Yeah. And Nintendo had a shareholder meeting of some sort. Some things I wanted to bring up is that they realized within the last year they really didn't have a single 3DS hit, which is unfortunate, but I guess is kind of true. I'm guessing Fire Emblem didn't do all that well. I'm not really sure.
That's weird. I heard it was selling great when it came out.
I don't know. I mean, that's just what this thing said. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe it didn't sell as well as they were hoping it could, or something like that. But I remember it, garnering a lot of attention with the fan base and being talked about a lot. And I thought a lot of people picked it up. They also mentioned that for the Wii U, Splatoon, Mario Maker, and Twilight Princess both did really well for them, or all three of them did really well for them, which is obvious. They mentioned that they're finally at a balanced operating income. So I'm guessing all of the money they were throwing into developing a new system has slowed down now that they're more or less finished with the system.
Yep.
I know they're really looking into how they're going to do production at this point. So I mean, they're pretty much done with it. Yeah,
that's what it sounds like. So awesome.
And it's nice that they're probably making money again at this point. They reiterated that the Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem mobile games are going to be coming out in the fall. And they're putting a huge focus on Nintendo IPs for theme parks, character goods, and for, oddly enough, film content.
Oh, cool. I did notice that they just teamed up with the shoe company Vans, and there's a lot of new Vans shoes and backpacks and all kinds of stuff on their site. It's all Nintendo themed. A lot of it's really cool.
Yeah, and during one of our breaks, I had noticed just now that they have put up a video that announces a partnership with a clothing company called Uniqlo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But they're basically having this T-shirt designing contest that's going to be ending in August. So that's another way of part of their character goods thing where they're trying to get these brands that they have that have a lot of power and influence and use them in ways that they haven't been, because their view is if we can get people interested in this brand in clothing or in movies, then that'll bring them to the actual game itself.
Yeah, and it's smart to do this anyway because, like, Woot has competitions all the time for T-shirt design. I think it's Woot. Yeah, and they're almost always a rip-off of Nintendo stuff anyway, so why not? And I saw the video as well that you're referring to. Why not go ahead and do it yourself, you know?
Exactly. And honestly, I oftentimes see shirts that are Nintendo, but I don't buy them because they're usually kind of designed towards a younger audience. But this T-shirt contest could garner some really cool designs. And it's going to be judged by Miyamoto and some other people from Nintendo.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out.
And you can win money by getting your design picked, too.
And you could finally legally make Nintendo design stuff. I mean, that's what everybody wants to do, but, it's illegal. But people just change things here and there, and they get away with it on these other... Now you could use all the Nintendo assets and really make the stuff you want to make.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I think so. So for releases, in the past week, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE came out. If you like RPGs, please get it because it's really cool. Mario and Sonic at the Rio Games came out. And then more recently, just this Tuesday, Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens came out.
And the trailer is hilarious, by the way.
Yes. Honestly, if you've seen the trailer, it does look to be doing some stuff that doesn't normally get done in Lego games. So I don't know how much different it is, but it's nice to see they're kind of deviating from a formula they've been using for the last, almost 10 years at this point.
Yeah, I just like it when Kylo goes, "We're not finished," and then Rey pulls her saber towards him and knocks him unconscious with it on the way. That makes me laugh every time I see it on TV.
They have the people who do the cutscenes for that have great timing and are really funny. Mm-hmm. For downloads, there is a game called Ivanoid, which is basically Space Invaders and Arkanoid mixed in together.
Oh, that sounds kind of cool.
It could be pretty good. There's a game called Prism Pets, which is a Threes clone. If you're aware of the game Threes, it basically plays like that, but has little cards that have like animal pictures on them. And then also the Minecraft Story Mode game has finally gotten episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the Wii U, which have been out on other platforms for a while now. I don't really know what took them so long, but whatever. And then there's a bunch of Hyrule Warriors content that came out for Wii U as well.
That's cool.
On Virtual Console, Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars came out.
Yep. So I already own that on Wii. I might pay the $1. My wife really likes that game, so I might pay the $1 and have it upgraded to my Wii U.
Excellent. And that brings the total of playable Mario RPGs to pretty much all of them, except for I guess Sticker Star and Thousand Year Door for the Wii. Well, you can so you can't play those two, but you can play a bunch of other ones, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can even play Super Paper Mario because you can, use your Wii emulation built into the system and play.
Well, and it's also available for download now too.
Oh, I didn't know.
That came out 2 weeks ago, I think.
Very cool. That's my favorite, so I'm happy that I really love all the mechanics of that game. I like being able to flip the world between 3D and 2D. Mm-hmm. I like the look of it. I've talked about that game a ton on this show and the previous show, so it's one of my favorites.
I think that you can get at least 2 of the Mario and Luigi games on the Wii U at this point too. So.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah. On 3DS, a game I picked up but haven't played yet, Zero Escape, Zero Time Dilemma came out on Tuesday. The 3DS also got Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. And then for download, another big week for me at least, Box Boy came out, and so did the Battle Cats Pop.
Yeah, I watched the trailer again of that.
Still ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. The beginning is crazy because it's an army of like demon cats. They're all black with vicious, glowy red eyes, and they're smiling at you, but like in a way like they want to eat your face off.
Yeah. So the Link's Awakening pack has also come out this week. So Marin from Link's Awakening is now a playable character in that game, and she uses like a bell to attack and can summon the windfish. I believe that's what it is. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
And for some weird reason, they didn't get a single Virtual Console game this week for the 3DS. And considering they've been really putting out a lot of Super Nintendo games, I mean, I feel like they have a lot that they could still work with.
Definitely, yeah. They're still way behind on stuff to put out.
Yeah, and then Monster Hunter Generations demo came out to the general public. And then also an RPG from Sega, Seventh Dragon 3, a demo for that is also available now. So you can try those games
out. I saw a little bit of that, too. I haven't tried either of those demos. I never got a code from Nintendo or Capcom for Generations.
What the heck? Capcom, you're better than that. This guy buys all your Monster Hunter games.
I buy all their games, you know? I buy a lot of their stuff, so come on, hook me up.
All right, and so that covers the news for this week.
Cool. Let's go ahead and close it out, Adam. Where could people find you at?
All right, so you can find me everywhere on the internet, except for a few places, as I Draw Robots. So you can hit me up and talk about some games, and we can chat about Tokyo Mirage Sessions and who your favorite character is and all that. Because I'd love to talk about that and post stupid pictures or something from it. Yeah, so come find me.
It's at Bradley Guys, Twitter and YouTube for me. And hit us both up if you want to try to jump into some Splatoon with us. We're probably going to try and get some matches in this week. Like I said, we could only get the one going last week, which was a bummer. But I know we're going to try and hit it this week.
Well, it's partially my fault, too, because I felt like I'd forgotten how to play the game. And so I just wanted to, like, dip my toe a little bit into the ink.
Yeah, and maybe I'll put some videos up, especially if we get some listeners to play with us. I'll probably most definitely cap it and throw it up on the channel so people can, viewers of the show can check it out.
Yeah, find my Nintendo ID, which is I Draw Robots.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best way to find us. Message us on there, message us on Twitter. You can message me on YouTube, whatever you want to do if you want to play. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm still going to be working on Adam's newest Mario Maker levels, so expect to see them on the channel hopefully sometime soon. And yeah, until next week, we'll catch you later.
これだわ。ここハドソン中央研究所では内緒のソフトを研究してるらしいの。やっとボンバーマンたちを追い払ったのでちょっと覗いてみましょう。間違えてんだ。俺様から逃げられると思ってんのか。